Hi, welcome back to the channel. We'll be continue doing the IoT lab, okay? Basically on Network Academy. Today we're talking about lab on 5.1.2.9. The focus is web application vulnerability. So similar to the past few lab, we actually have a Kali Linux virtual machine. For the Raspberry Pi portion, will be replaced using a Ubuntu virtual machine. So this is the following IP address that will be following again, which is it's exactly the same as the past few lab. So Kali will be running on this following IP address 192.168.56.2. Ubuntu will be running on 192.168.56.11. Okay, so exactly what we were going to look through is basically we're going to run a Python application, right? And then you'll find that there are some exploitation, okay, and vulnerability, and you'll set up the basic application. They will run a attack, reconnaissance attack. They will try to exploit some of the application problem, and then end of the day add the necessary protection. Okay, so to set up the lab, we need to check all the IP address, right, for the VM. Let's go and take a look at the IP address of the VM. On the Ubuntu, if previously, if you're following the previous lab, it should stick back to the same IP address. So we go ifconfig, right? So we have 56.1, which is perfect. Okay, over here. Okay, and then we go to look at Kali. Start the terminal also. Okay, 56.2. Okay, so the main focus, we will start on with the Ubuntu portion of the lab, main part of the lab, and then we will the Kali will come in later. So we go and do this nicer. Okay, so let's clear the screen. Okay, and we move on to the next part, verify the status of the firewall. We need to make sure that the firewall is not running, right? And password is password, right? So firewall is not inactive, so it says fine. So we don't need to do anything, right? Also need to, if you have the firewall active, you probably want to just do a disable of the firewall with this line next. Okay. Next, we want to do the database. Okay, so sudo systemctl, we need to start the database. Start MySQL. Okay, so start the database. How to check the database is working? So we can do a net stack minus tulmp. Okay, then we want to grep MySQL daemon. Right. I think you don't need to do this, just that. And you can see, this is the one, right? This is the SQL. Okay, if you see 3306, that's the key port that MySQL is running. Okay. Next, we want to use this particular command to be able to more precisely look into the directory, so they can be more precise in terms of directory. Okay, let's do this. The directory is not the same as this, so where we put it, cd downloads, cd scripts, okay, and we're in, right? So that's the effect of having that just now this command, right? So that you at least you are inside the directory. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to list the directory. Okay, so this is some of the files inside there. There's an init MySQL, which is what we need right at the beginning, which is this command over here. Okay, so we're going to do this. Run this, right? Initialize the SQL with a schema. So that's the key part first. We want to do all the necessary database schema first. Okay. Next, we're going to run the app. Okay, paste. Okay, you start running the app. So we should continue using this, right? this is the port that we are going to run on. It's exposing on port 8080. We can use a local browser to work on the browser itself, right? Okay, so basically it's either Kali or your machine, right? So here it says use Kali, right? Go to Kali. Okay. And open up a browser in Kali. Okay. My intention probably we don't use Kali, just use a local host so that it's easier to flip in and out. Okay. Just use Chrome and 192.168.56.2.11, sorry. Then port 8080. Okay, it should work. Right? So you can see that there is a HTTP GET from the machine, goes to the machine, the what you call it, the Ubuntu itself. Okay, so there's no information here. Okay, this is exactly the same as using this so that it's easier. It's exactly the same as this, right? This two things is exactly the same. Okay. Next, we want to add in some information through here, right? So the easiest way is actually this part, right? So we're going to add kitchen question mark temperature equals to some information. So HTTP actually just 192.168.56.1. Okay. Slash add slash kitchen. Okay. Question mark temperature. Okay. Equals to 40. Just leave it at this line. Okay. So this allows you to add in a value called temperature equals to 40. You just add it in. It says okay. While you just add in, okay, just the get function, add a temperature of 40. Next, you go back to here. We do a refresh, enter. So temperature is up there, right? So kitchen equals to 40. So that's the name of the information. Get this. Okay. Now, let's try to do some additional data and put it in. We don't just want to put one. We probably want to put 2 or 3 information. So let's just put another one information, right? Just call them temperature equals to 38. Okay. Then I have another one, temperature, which is 36, example. Okay. Let's go back and take a look here. So 3. Okay, as you have noticed, by me doing 3 of them, the status get updated. Okay, because if you don't put in additional information and if just following the lab sheet, you may not get to this particular point that actually change the status. Okay, of course, every time you refresh, this thing will change. Okay, so that's the key portion in terms of the value there. Okay, so you take a look at the next portion, right? It says, can you do some updates on the information? So they have an ID, right? You can go and change the number 1, number 2, or number 3. So let's see, instead of number 1, we're going to change number 3, right? Information. Okay, and okay, say yeah is update followed by, let's say, 3 temperature equals to whatever number. Okay, instead of add, let's update over here, right? Then I'll go to 3 temperature was 36. Well, let's change it to 50. Okay, it works, right? Looks nice here. See, okay. We go back to here and we take a look at the refresh. The last item should change to 50. See, change to 50, right? So that's the first part of the lab. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to part 2 of the lab, which is conduct a reconnaissance attack. Okay. So how do we do this? We go to the Kali and we want to look at what are the services running inside there. Inside the, well, can be a Raspberry Pi or Ubuntu. So we go to Kali, right? Okay, we do some adjustment, quick one. And we want to clear the screen first. It's cleaner. We want to run an mmap. Okay, 192.168.56.0/24 all the ports. Right? So I want to take a look at all the network. What are the possible ports that's running through mmap? So just run. Great. So we have reached the point that yes, this did all the necessary scanning, right? So it took about quite a long time to do the scanning. Okay. We have found that on the Ubuntu itself, okay, these are all the various services running. And the key thing is the proxy and port 8080. Okay. So next, since we know that it's a web, so we just want to focus on the web port itself. Okay. Next, we do this, the web port, mmap -a -t4 192.168.56.11 port 8080. So good. We actually have run the system and we can discover through this particular port 8080. Okay, there's this Python behind the scene running the HTTP. Okay, and you can see the potential is using put method, right? And this is the timing for the whole entire system. So the question here is, what's the name of the version of the HTTP daemon running on the Ubuntu itself? So you can see this is the HTTP daemon. Basically, it's a program. You see HTTP, there's a daemon, right? This is the program name, and that's the version. Okay. So, of course, different version. This is earlier on than this one, so it doesn't really matter. So actually, you can use it to find out, right? Do the research on the web. Answer the following question: what kind of vulnerability recently discovered in this web server software? Which of the companies compromised with the exploit of this vulnerability? So you can just Google and find out. Obviously, there are some of the vulnerability. Later, we'll go through and some of the vulnerability. Next, using Skipfish to discover some of the hidden application page, right? So you have this application running, and you can use this particular software to find out what are the found of vulnerability behind the scene. So there's this software called Skipfish, right? So we want to clear in Kali, clear, right? And then we can, do this, copy, paste, right? Okay, and then I just run this. Okay, able to run it nicely. Continue. Right. So just let it run for a while. No need to run forever lah. Need to run for a while, so they can collect enough information. It'll take a while to see some of the stuff. Right. This thing will run continuously forever lah. So we don't need to look at the thing and let it run forever. Right. Okay, I think you'll be fine if we just control break here. Right, scan is stopped. Right, the report will be saved under here. Okay, so I'm not going to. We run quite a bit of stuff here because it's just continuing to run it. So not to worry about the whole entire process. Right. Then you can go to the browser within here. Go to a Firefox browser. Okay, and then we take a look at the result end of the day. Okay, just run file. Okay, put another one. Right click, paste. Take a look. This is Skipfish, right? Because as I mentioned, it run continuously. So, right, these are some of the things. Right, this will cover some of the things mentioned earlier on. Right. Okay, if you take a look, right, very similar in terms of the data wise. They also run about a minute or so. We also run about a minute or so. Okay. This thing will never end, so I'll just leave it to run to a particular point and just good enough. Okay. You can see the length we run actually is a lot longer, 440. You only run only about 200 plus. So actually, in actual fact, even though the timing is less, the data we run is a lot more. Okay. There are some of this information, okay, that is exposed, right? Then these are the information that is exposed. So anyone can just go in and add some of this information in. So these are some of the possible vulnerability involved, right? All these things should not be there in terms of the allow you to update the database just like this. Okay. Next, this part, before we go to the next part, this is the part 2 of the whole entire portion. Okay, next we will explore the part 3, which is exploit the vulnerability of the web application. So step 1, we are going to in Kali again, back in Kali. Let's close the browser. Right, ls-a. Okay, so we see that is there any database files here? No, doesn't exist, right? Okay, this one because is here because you may want to run a test, and then if there's such a file, you probably want to delete this. Okay, so this is the portion. If we have run this particular portion. So we will not run this portion, so you don't need to look. Let's just ignore part A and part B. Okay, then we jump straight to the part C portion. Okay, and we just need to run this SQL map. Right, just copy and paste. Right, let's clear the screen first and paste. Okay, and run. Okay, so you will go in and it will do something on the database part itself. So you need to be patient and do not touch anything on the system itself. Just let it run. Let Kali just run by itself. It will successfully reach to this particular point, and you will just continue and press yes. Enter. Right? No. Enter. And let it run. Okay, it will take a while. Okay, as you can see, it will crash out this thing. So sometimes because of this, it cannot do it right nicely, right? Because of the tree trial. This typical. Then we have to go back to here and we type ls-a because of the unsuccessful process. Then we go in and because there's a SQL. Where's the SQL map? SQL maps here. So just go and delete the SQL map. Okay, this is typical, right? Just run once, do this, okay, delete, yes, and yes, okay, and yes, and yes. Just let it delete everything. Okay, never mind. Then we will run just now that command again. Okay, that's why I try not to touch this because sometimes the first time or even the second time may fail. So we'll just let it run. Yes, for the first question. No for the second question. Okay, see? So the second run, it runs smoother. Then we can go in and say a no. Right? Just leave it. Run. Yeah, figure out that there's a thing called temperature. Okay, so the second run will be successful because somehow this thing need to run twice. Okay, you want to optimize? Say yes. This will appear automatically. This vulnerable sensor. Okay, you don't need to type anything, right? Okay, let it come out by itself. It will come out automatically by itself. See? So it's actually what this portion is trying to do is using is basically going through the exploitation, and actually is a form of hacking. It is a SQL injection, and they try to run through this whole entire thing so that they can do some form of SQL database and figure out what are the database inside there. So through this whole entire process, we discovered there's a database called vulnerable sensor, and they look into the database name and all this kind of information inside there. Okay, so that's the key portion. Just bear with it. Just let it run, finish a little bit more to clear that few character. Okay. After this, right? Then you make use of this to go in and prevent this the earlier database. Remember we have just now the earlier database. We log in, you can see the information, right? You can basically use that to actually prevent that whole entire database from running and crash the whole entire thing. So just let it run for a while, right? Trying to run the delay and fetching the database name and the database. So this part is all on the forcing the information on the database. So you let it run for a while first. Almost there. Because you see this is twice. Okay. It takes a while to retrieve the information on the vulnerable sensor. Okay. This will show up. It's just slow because there's another thing called information schema. So this is where the second part comes in. Just have to wait for a while. Okay. for this part of the lab, you need to be patient because the the hacking is going behind the scene. It take a while to finish the whole entire process. Okay. Until to the point that we actually can see this database information, this part. Okay. Okay, great. So actually you can see the database information, right, collected, and then therefore after that is done properly, right? So the next part is the database type has been discovered. The name is called vulnerability sensor. So we actually know there's such a database. You can use the next command to look into the table itself. So let's take a look and run a table. So instead of not knowing the SQL database command, which is this, right? This is just go in and just discover whatever it is. Now we know the database, right? Name, the DBMS, and we put it in, and we want to search up the table, right? Just go in, run. Okay, you do a SQL injection again, and you find out. Okay, do you want to find out the table, yes. Okay. And eventually you will see this table that you are looking at. So there's the table is called sensors from the database, vulnerability sensors. Okay. Okay. Do you want the common STCC to be checked? Right. Okay. You will just say yes. Do you want to continue? Just let it run. Okay, it's not overly important because have you discovered the thing? Nope. So never mind, we just control break again. It's okay. Let's try to rerun that whole entire process because somehow or other there's some problem with the command. Right. Typically, it should run once the first time round, but sometimes the of the delay and all the communication. Let's try to run this thing again. Okay. Okay, we want to run this. Yes. Uh, to stop the just now the process, I use Control C. Okay, just to help you in terms of the you're wondering what's going on. So this is the correct time already. You see, this round is trying to detect what is inside there, the table. Okay, so sometimes you may have to run twice. Okay, yeah, see the table. So we discover the table, right? Okay, in the process itself, if you go back to the table itself and you refresh this table, this is what it means by the next part. Refresh the table, it actually try to turn out a lot of stuff, and then the test portion, you can see around is about 500 plus or 600 plus. Okay, right. So we have a database name called vulnerability sensor and storing the sensor. Then we want to do an attack on the system. We drop the whole entire table itself. So much so that end of the day, this thing will not work. You drop the whole entire database table, it will cause this thing not be able to work. Okay. So what you can do is run this, Kali, click, copy, go to Kali, paste, enter, right? Connected, send, wait for a while, Okay. So this is a SQL injection method, right? So instead of just a normal command that add in the temperature itself, you would add in an additional thing called drop table, and the table name is called sensors, okay, which is exactly the same as here. Okay, and then it will drop the whole entire thing. Okay. It's been running for quite a while. Let's just come here and take a look. Okay, it is still working fine, right? So let's double check again the command that we're pressing. Okay, done. Okay, finally it's done. So you can see that there's some internal error at this point in time. So we try to do a refresh now. Okay, so this is what we are trying to get to, right? So about the patient, sometimes all these things takes a bit of time to run, to time out. Okay, so this is by adding injection, SQL injection. This is the part that actually drop the whole entire table. Okay, it deletes the whole entire table. So end of the day, nobody can access. So this is the hacking portion, that someone are able to discover what is the database name, the table name, and then drop the table, and it caused the whole thing to not function end of the day. Okay. Next thing, so this is coming to the end of part 3. Right. Now we're going to move to the part 4. Finally, going to resolve the problem. So in the first place, because the table is erased, so we need to do a recovery process. Let's go back to the Ubuntu portion. Right, Ubuntu. Okay, here, minimize this. Right. So we log in as password. Okay. Right, runs tons of stuff. Let's control break this stuff. We go back and reinitiate back the SQL command. We initiate back the web system. Okay. Now, then, the next most important thing is to enable a firewall to make sure that the thing cannot be taken place. So we open another new terminal. Okay. Now, just now has no firewall. So the key solution to this is to include firewall into the thing. So we just can add in the, where's my mouse? Right. The firewall rule 1. Yeah. Just need to do sudo. Okay. Paste. Right. Password. Okay. Rule updated. Sudo. Allow the port 8080 to go through. Right. Port 80 to go through. So try to drop some of the non-essential protocol to prevent people from hacking. VFW enable sudo. Okay. Right. Of course, on top of it, you want to limit the connections to prevent. So just now you see there are a lot of throws, right? So the key thing is to limit the connection. So what we do is sudo VFW limit, right, 8080/TCP. Okay, that will limit the connections. That will not allow the just now that particular program to go through. Okay, and last but not least, we want to check whether VFW is running. Yes, it's running, and it does limit the process, right? See, 8080. Okay, that's the key thing we want to look at. Okay, then after that, we want to use a tail command, right, to lock down the process. Okay, so you can see the process later. So we can copy down the process that actually went in and do these things, which is just now we did not record these things, right? So we can go in and take a look at the file later. Okay, based on this particular log. This is important. Okay, so we run this. Okay, so this is the ending part for the Ubuntu side. Then we want to move on to the next thing, which is the Kali portion, and we try to do the same thing again. Now, let's say we actually remember the table, right? So we want to do this, right? This one, right? We try to do the mapping, okay? So you can see it doesn't went through anymore, right? Because this require a lot of recursive method to look into the system. Okay. Then this fails, and we can go in and take a look back into the after the SQL injection. You will see the log file inside here. So we can go back to Ubuntu. Right. This is the log file. Right. It just tell you, okay, we will limit the thing. You will not be able to so easily go through, right? In terms of the kernel wise, the synchronization. Okay. Next, we want to look at the skip fish portion. okay, in the Ubuntu portion, so that I mean in the Kali itself, and run this. Right now, the vulnerability has been patched. So we look at it, just press continue, run it. Of course, this will run for quite a while. Okay, and you start checking the vulnerability, you will see that it is not the same. You have to run this for about a minute or so. This thing be running for almost about 4 minutes plus. Okay, we have to run quite a while for this thing to finish. Okay, so yeah, you just let it run. Okay, on the second end, this one uh will take quite a while to finish running. Okay, about 4 minutes plus. So just let it run first. Okay, after several minutes later, we actually have completed this portion. Okay, so next, we want to take a look at to go to the browser and take a look at the results, so that we can compare the skipfish earlier on and the skipfish at this juncture. So we'll go back to the browser, right? And we want to run this, right? Copy and paste. And we start running it. You'll see the difference. Now we only have left with one, right? In terms of that, you can't see the second part of it. That's the key portion. If you go back to the earlier documentation, the earlier skipfish, the two parts, right? There's application and there's a text plane. So now you cannot see the command in terms of that, and there is also limit suppress. You see here early on don't have a limit suppress. Okay, so that's important in terms of reducing the vulnerability portion. Okay, so let's go back over here, right? On, so we can look at and so by the last part of this thing is to the next step is to do sanitization, right? If you look into the file itself, go back to the Ubuntu program, log in. Okay, key is okay. Let's stop this process. Okay, the script one, the one that runs. Okay, this Python app. Okay, program. So we will stop this process. We will go in and take a look at the program, the Python code itself, and do some modification to the code. Okay, sudo, let's clear first. Okay, so it's makes life simple for ourselves. Okay, sudo nano, right? This one, -l. We can just this portion, just copy this and paste. Okay, -l, right? Never mind about the -l. Just go in this particular file. Okay, I did not do the -l. Okay, so because I use sudo, there did not use sudo. So go in, And you will see that over the code in terms of the query, we have to scroll further down. There's one that is being commented out. Remove the commented out one. Put the one that is not on comment in comment. So it's a swap between these two code. Okay. So this one, add in additional thing known as the escape. Right. Let me get this bigger. Okay. The escape string, right? Instead of direct to the sensor information, you do an escape string, and you do an escape string, db escape string for the sensor temperature before it enter into the system. So what does this thing do? This thing prevent, like for example, information like if you start dropping the table, right? They will not go through a direct one because they look at some of this feature as like your percentage 20 and so on and so forth to prevent that thing happen, right? So now we can save this particular program, Control O, right? Save, Control X, exit. We run that same program again now. Okay, this is to prevent the attack again using this drop table. So let's now try with the drop table. Close this, close that. Okay, now we want to drop table. Okay, copy this thing over here, copy, right click, copy, paste, the exit command. Okay, it did not went through. See, right? Because of the information created, it did not went through. So, and we take a look at the table. Let's go back to the table. Click, refresh. See, it does not. It's only the front part that went through. Okay. Okay, the back part of it does not went through. Okay. So that's the whole part of the whole point of the portion, that actually by changing the code itself, looking at the DB escape code, once you have any database code, for example, drop or then the percentage or what so, they will just ignore the whole entire thing and run it normally. Okay, so that allows this part of the question to do. So what happens if the sensor data it continue to run and it doesn't run this whole entire drop table? Okay, so that comes to the conclusion of part 4, which we actually clear out a whole entire lab for that purposes. Okay, so we have closed this lab. Do subscribe to the channel itself. Thank you very much. Bye bye.